That John Morant thing is so interesting because I saw that yesterday and I was like, oh my goodness, Phoenix Suns could trade Kevin Durant for that guy. A little bit shorter of a show today, but I saw, and just because, listen, day job, things I got to go do, and that's just the nature of what it is in my position. But either way, there were a couple of guys yesterday who are joining the free agency fold, and that is two guys that I think the Arizona Cardinals do have to go get. Now, I have been a proponent of going and getting Cooper Kupp. If he's cut, you won't be able to trade for him. The Rams are not going to trade him in division. But I've been a proponent of go get T. Higgins. Go get Cooper Kupp. If it's possible. Well, now T. Higgins is franchise tag. That's likely not going to be an option for the Cardinals. You're not going to give up assets for T. Higgins. You're just simply not doing so. But And the same thing, again, goes for Cooper Kupp. You're not giving up assets for Cooper Kupp, and the Rams are not going to trade him in division. But a guy I think that does deserve a do-over in Arizona because he was a very good player here, I do wonder what the bill is going to look like, is Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk isn't a small wide receiver. He's, in the 5'10 to 6 foot area, probably a little bit shorter than 6 foot. But he's a guy for this team that would make a lot of sense to come back. He's a vertical threat, good around the middle of the field. Him and Kyler Murray have connections, and he's from here. When you see that the Jacksonville Jaguars could be moving on from Christian Kirk, you immediately say to yourself, that's a guy that makes sense for the Arizona Cardinals. A guy that was drafted here and likely should have never been let out the door. Now, he got $21 million a year, and at the time, that was an absurd contract to give Christian Kirk. And then what happened? The wide receiver market exploded. Guys got deal after deal after deal. But this is what the Cardinals need to do. Strategic in who they pick up in free agency. It is imperative that they go sign a guy like Trey Smith. It is imperative that they go get another wide receiver because this wide receiver room does need it. Christian Kirk, Michael Wilson, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is a massive deal, massive upgrade to this team. Add Trey Smith to the offensive line. That is also something the Arizona Cardinals could use. But a reunion in the desert should absolutely be in the works. I'm not 1,000% sure what the contract will look like. There's a number that makes sense for everyone. And just because I have money doesn't mean I'm going to spend all of it. Trey McBride needs a new contract extension. Who knows? Maybe Kyler Murray explodes this regular season and wants to rip up his deal and get more money. Now, you can argue if you should do that, but it is something that could be in the cards. Or who knows? Guys need deals all the time. Budda Baker just got paid. You want to use your money to pay your players. Maybe, Darius Robinson explodes and is an elite level player over the next couple of years, and you got to save up to pay him. But that's just how it works. You don't want to spend your money everywhere. But guys that do make sense is a Christian Kirk who's been here before, who is from Phoenix, played at Saguaro High School, has chemistry with Kyler Murray, and ultimately will be the type of slot receiver this team needs. Over the middle, finding the soft spots, and being able to help Kyler Murray out, reading defenses, that is something that I would really like for this team. And then there was another guy that I saw yesterday. Jaire Alexander. This season, I got to be honest, the Arizona Cardinals defensive backs were better than I gave them credit for. Garrett Williams is a stud cornerback. The second cornerback, you're not too sure who that is. Max Melton showed flashes this season, but Max Melton, Garrett Williams, after that, it does get a little murky. And then Jalen Thompson's likely going to be a cap casualty this year. He's going to have some issues in the safety position, actually keeping him there because he's going to make too much money. And same with the Budda Baker side of things. As much as I love Budda Baker, who knows? Maybe after a year he really falls off. Maybe next year he really falls off, and he's a cap casualty as well. And you have to continue to bolster up this defense. And when I see a 28-year-old in Jaire Alexander likely going to be done with the Packers following the league new year, the new league year, that's a guy the Arizona Cardinals have to get. You got to bolster up this defense. Jaire Alexander, if he becomes a free agent, is a higher free agent guy to go get if you're ranking them over Christian Kirk. He's up there with the Trey Smith signing of, or I guess I should say, potential Trey Smith signing. He's in that area of guys because this defense needs leaders on this team and elite level shutdown players. And what's the hardest thing to get in this league at this point? Shutdown corners. I mean, Jaire Alexander, for all extensive purposes, has been a shutdown guy ever since he came into the league. I'm not so sure what the bill's going to look like, but it's not going to be a massive 4-year deal. He's 28. He's going to get 2 to 3 years. Maybe you get 2 years with an option in that third year. That is what makes sense for this team. Jaire Alexander is a guy that can help bolster this defensive back room. And consistently, the theme of the Arizona Cardinals offseason is what we continue to talk about. Strategically picking out 1 or 2 guys that fits the mold of what you need. And then getting a little, fun with it. But that might just not happen. Last year, we had our eyes set on a Justin Matabuki or just whatever, those kind of guys. But what normally happens is a lot of those players never hit free agency because, one, the good ones never do. Teams like to re-sign those guys. And 2, the franchise tag, which is also the stupidest thing in all of sports. I mean, some guy, T. Higgins isn't even going to hit free agency because of the franchise tag, which is, once again, the dumbest thing in all of sports. So you don't want to be crazy. You don't want to be what the Patriots did years ago and spend money on Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith and Jalen Mills and all those guys, and then it ended up in 0 playoff wins. Or what the Jacksonville Jaguars did a couple years ago and paid Christian Kirk and paid all these players. And what happened? They made the playoffs. They have won 1 game in the playoffs since then. Fool's gold in free agency is a very common thing. So you don't just want to spend it just to spend it. But you have clear holes, and these 2 guys make a lot of sense to plug up those holes. Christian Kirk being that slot receiver and at times that outside guy, that deep threat that can help with Kyler Murray and the chemistry that he has with Kyler Murray. It makes a lot of sense there. And then as well with Jaire Alexander on a defense that has issues all over it, especially in the defensive back sort, where he can help be a mentor to these younger guys. I'm willing to overpay a little bit for Jaire Alexander just to have that leadership and that teaching, coaching ability and experience to give to Max Millen or to give to Garrett Williams or Starling Thomas V. Those are the type of guys that make sense for me to be able to come into this Cardinals team. And it's frustrating because every year we talk about free agency and a lot of these guys don't even make it there. So when you see a T. Higgins not even make it to free agency or the franchise tag, if you're a quarterback needy team, the Vikings tag Sam Darnold, that's frustrating. But when you see the news that 2 guys could be cap casualties, one in Christian Kirk, who's been here before and makes a lot of sense for this team, and Jaire Alexander, who's been a shutdown corner pretty much his entirety of his time with the Green Bay Packers, that's what you got to do. I mean, that's what makes sense for this team at this point. So it just gets frustrating to me not being able to recognize what the Arizona Cardinals have to do.